Hey, what's up guys, Riff here. So if you've been keeping track at home, this is now the third straight video on the Sykkuno situation. We have reached the trilogy, and today's coverage is going to include a lot more pathetic behavior. This is a situation that really at its bare bones is a simple one, where this popular streamer Sykkuno is a cheater and a manipulator. However, as we've seen, thanks to sensationalization and clout chasing, this has evolved into something that has been a complete joke, where the surrounding circumstances have really distracted from the basic premise of what this guy did in the first place. So in the previous two videos, we talked about the original Google Doc that was exposing him as a serial cheater and manipulator, and there was the accompanying Muujin video. And in both the video and in the Google Doc, he was labeled as a dangerous predator. And when questioned on his reliability in terms of a narrator for this video and also the use of the term predator, Muujin would crash out on Twitter. We also looked at the two VTubers who were included in the Google Doc here, who, after careful examination, had many conflicting statements throughout their Google Doc and the related Discord call that was included in it. And a lot of people started to question their reliability in terms of what they're trying to express in the Google Doc. And as with any situation going on in the VTubing scene, what do you think happens with the people who are bystanders? Well, the clout chasing begins. Yes, everyone starts coming out of the woodwork to share their experience with this guy. And of course, there are some people sharing more evidence that this guy was a manipulative cheater who was juggling a bunch of women while cheating on his girlfriend. But there's also a lot of stories, a lot of testimonies being shared that are just downright ridiculous and resemble clout chasing. It does not absolve this guy of being a cheater. However, it makes some of these people look ridiculous, especially when they're sharing their experience with this Sykkuno individual. And this is supposed to be an example of his predatory behavior. That's the levels we got to. So to give a quick rundown again, you have this Himomo individual who uploads the Google Doc, nearly 40 million views on the tweet sharing it. People start going through it and realize that, well, she's really trying to paint herself as a victim who knew nothing about this situation, but thanks to the Discord call included in the Google Doc, there are a lot of conflicting statements. In fact, for a woman who was labeling him as a dangerous predator in very recent times, she was still giving him a second chance and wanting to continue being a friend or possibly more with him, and even admitted that she still had feelings for him in this post that was supposed to defend herself, but ended up getting noted because, well, it didn't defend herself. It actually backfired and made her look like even bigger of a liar. And she's been confronted with many things, including her former posts celebrating the assassination of Charlie Kirk and all the holes in this Google Doc, and this is her current response, saying, "Fan service, I'm a fan and I feel serviced." This seems like a poorly timed tweet, and she's basically just continuing on like nothing happened. Now, the other VTuber mentioned in the Google Doc is this Alpha Leah individual. We talked about her in yesterday's video. She was one of the quote-unquote victims of Sykkuno. She was one of the people receiving multiple payments from him, and this includes payments for a trip to France where they would have intercourse during that trip. And this was all admitted in that same Discord call when he was confronted. And people started looking at the statements made by this Elfie individual, where she claimed she was in a relationship for 4.5 months that just ended. And people are starting to do the math and looking at her story in the timeline from the Google Doc. And it might paint her as a cheater as well. That's what some people were claiming based on the timeline. And she just really didn't look too great. And eventually, she would unprivate her account as of this morning, and she would make a response saying she's alive and she's moving on and living life, and you can believe what you want, and she doesn't give a F. and she's going to go back to streaming, and her boy acknowledged they weren't even in a relationship when all of this happened. Still aren't officially, except for the fact she said the exact opposite thing just like 2 days ago. And then she ends it by saying, if you want to insult me, pay a fee of £300. And of course, she includes a picture of herself so she can farm more likes and validate her post here and feel like that's the reason why people are liking it. You know, they're agreeing with her message, and it's totally not because they're just liking the photo that she shared. But when it comes to the insult fee, she's charging $300 for an insult fee. Well, she's not going to get it from me. I'm blocked. I can't even directly insult her anymore. And also, having people pay you to insult you, that's my game, okay? That's what my community does. They pay me to insult me all the time, okay? And they'll probably do it right in the comments of this video. And you know what? That's my shtick. Please stay away from it. But anyways, people are making a lot of observations, okay? The dust has settled a little bit on the situation, and I think this quote really sums it up. I didn't realize until I saw these posts how bad the e-girl problem in the VTubing sphere actually is. It's like when I learned there's VTubers that don't like anime, but worse. And that is a very fair observation. Pretty much every VTuber involved in this situation, they are a self-described VTuber, but yeah, they resemble an e-girl a lot more than that, because for every one post that has anything to do with VTubing, there's 10 plus selfies of their real self to counter it. Like, they obviously have much more of a focus on that. They're much more focused on promoting their real life Fansly accounts than they are actually VTubing, but they're considering themselves VTubers, and a lot of this is being discussed. And with all of that, and in, well, I guess, in an expected way with the VTubing scene, a lot of people are going in there and making this whole situation about themselves. They're seeing what happened with Sykkuno, and they're sharing their own testimony, their own experience. And like I said, there are some legitimate posts where people are sharing some experiences that say, yeah, this guy was a cheater, and it lines up with his pattern of behaviors. But some people are taking it to crazy lengths, where they're basically saying, I had an interaction with this guy, therefore I have to share this, and I was nearly a victim of this dangerous predator. Here's one of the people sharing their experience, this person named Saki, who says this: back when I didn't realize he was sliding in every small VTuber's DMs, including mine, I feel like he got off on the power imbalance with small VTubers that already admired him and thought he could get away with anything because VTubers are more private. And this is the proof that he gets off on a power imbalance. This is the only piece of evidence supplied where he says crab. That's it. That's the bullet, I guess, this woman dodged, because that's her experience with this Sykkuno individual. And you can see the comments are ripping this individual apart, saying, this is very serious. A crab offed my grandfather. Just a crumb of attention, please. I'm so sorry you had to go through this. Glad you survived. Thoughts and prayers to everyone else. Here's another one saying, he said the word crab to you. Quit playing victim. And this ratioed the original post. And then in response, the original poster would change their tune, saying this: I intentionally kept it lighthearted because I didn't want to involve myself too much. But it somehow had the opposite effect. Like, what? Stop putting words in my mouth. I genuinely didn't say anything crazy. Well, if you go back to the original post, you're basically implying he's getting off on a power dynamic, a power imbalance, which, by the way, the author of the Google Doc labeled as dangerous predatory behavior, that power imbalance, and your proof of it is him saying crab. Like, can we be serious, ladies and gentlemen? This is an absolute joke. Of course, people are going to look at this and think you are greatly exaggerating this interaction. You are sensationalizing something that is not predatory, that's not even worth mentioning whatsoever. It seems like you're only mentioning this to get attention. And the people replying to that latest reply by the OP are saying the same thing. The reality is that you would get easy engagement and positive petty from people, right? It backfired, and now you're pretending you weren't saying anything. You said and implied him being a predator who you were lucky enough to not fall for, at least have a spine. Exactly. Like, you knew what you were doing. You were trying to get attention. You're trying to get pity and sympathy points. It backfired, and now you're going back on this. It's way too late. But here's another individual who chimed in on this situation, a VTuber by the name of Nisa, who shared their experience, saying, I had Sykkuno approach me during September of 2025. We traded Discords and scheduled a game of Valorant. I mentioned I wanted to bring a +1, and he started to sound less eager. I ghosted him afterwards. Seeing all of this go down in front of me is sorta insane. Stay safe, everyone. That was their experience. They basically got ghosted by this guy when they wanted to play Valorant. And they end by saying, stay safe, everyone. Like, this was a potentially very dangerous situation she avoided. And the comments were locked, but a few got in before they were locked, and the sort of dichotomy here is hilarious. You can see the top one saying, I'm literally shaking, mocking the original post. This person saying, got ghosted and moved on. Dangerous predator behavior for sure. This person says, oh, phew, I'm so sorry for that close call. Clearly showing less interest being in a group setting as a shy person is indicative of predatory manipulation. And then these ones are hugging. It's the hugging emote. And then you also are hugging emoji. And then you have this one saying, WTF, I'm so sorry, Nisa. You're so sorry that this guy ghosted her and didn't want to play video games with her? Like, what are we even talking about? And eventually the original poster here would say, I'm not built for drama. My experience is definitely not comparable to the rest, and my heart goes out to the girls affected. I just wanted to contribute to the bigger picture. Let's go back to being happy and drawing cute girls. You know what? I don't know this individual, but I think that is a very good takeaway from this entire thing. How about you go back to talking about anime girls or drawing or whatever you do? I think that is a better use of your time. You'll probably be a lot happier. Drama's not your thing, and you chimed in on this situation when you probably shouldn't have, and it makes it look like you're trying to paint him as the label he's being painted with, which is a dangerous predator with an interaction that doesn't even come within a stratosphere of that label. But we're seeing a lot of people not buying that. You know, users like this saying, then stop adding to the nothing burger by talking about your nothing experience. I was expecting him to do the unthinkable but nothing. Honestly, I might as well come out and say something just to gain clout and sympathy as well. This is stupid. Yeah, I mean, what's stopping anybody at this point from just saying their experience with Sykkuno at this point? But there's one more here. This Nami individual would also come out with their experience. It's quite a long one. To give you the too long didn't read version of events, essentially these two would meet up in real life, and he would make a pass at her. She would reject that, and basically her takeaway is, what could have happened? You know, where could have this gone? And the other thing we learned, we had the quote from the original Google Doc about him being low on XP or whatever. We got another quote out of this one where he talked about how nice she smelled, which is, incredible riz from this guy, but this quote kind of sums up what a lot of people are saying. So basically, he wanted to hook up, and she said no. But imagine if she said yes. You know what I mean? Like, this was a very long-winded post that showed he really didn't do anything wrong. Like, he was trying to hook up with this girl. It didn't happen. And now I guess we're supposed to take this as some sort of a warning. I don't know. But anyways, you can see people in the replies saying, why are we acting like he was a serial killer? And she replies by saying, you know, I'm not saying he's that, but I'm just saying I'm glad I wasn't a part of his serial cheating. And that was disgusting, yada, yada, yada. But again, it's the framing, it's the optics, it's the timing of all this. People all jumping in because they had an experience one way or another with this Sykkuno individual, and they're sharing it, and it's all getting linked back to what he's being labeled as, and that is a dangerous predator. And people are not considering some of these experiences to line up with that label, right? And it makes people take this entire thing less seriously. Again, it's all detracting away from the legitimate ground level accusation that this guy is a serial cheater. He is. That is blatantly clear to everyone looking at the situation. But we have all these distractions now because people like this added in inflammatory language like dangerous predator, knowing exactly how people would take that. And we saw it in the Muujin video as well. That distracted from the point. And then you have people coming out and sharing their experiences with him in this context, and they're sharing things that are just straight up goofy. Things like this. Him saying crab. And this is supposed to be an example of the power imbalance that made him predatory. You can understand why people are just having a hard time taking any of these people seriously when they're trying to contribute to this Google Doc that exists. Okay? And again, it seems like a lot of people in the VTubing scene are just missing the point entirely. They're missing the entire point. They're saying this, men complaining about the loneliness epidemic while also defending Sykkuno, saying what he did was a nothing burger and that he was just a bad boyfriend, are really telling on themselves. And people would quote that saying, no one's defending him. People are pointing out holes in the accusations while also saying Sykkuno is a bad person. Also, bringing up the loneliness epidemic doesn't even apply here. It's just throwing blame at men for no reason. And then that previous poster would quote themselves saying, so many men telling on themselves in the replies, hook, line, and suckers. You're welcome for the free block list, ladies. So this was all just to set up guys to do what? To show that they're going to question whether or not this Google Doc was a reliable source of information, if it was a reliable narrative, because there are many discrepancies in the Google Doc and in the Discord call and in the public statements made by the people who crafted the Google Doc. Like, it's okay to call those things out. And whether you're a man or a woman, you can identify that Sykkuno is a cheater and that's bad, while also questioning the intent and also the reliability of the people who were sharing the information that also went beyond just simply cheating and went into areas like being a dangerous predator. And I guess now if you question that, women should block you. Very interesting. But this entire situation has been an absolute mess. I wonder if this will be the last video in this series. I have a feeling it will not be. But for now, that's going to do it for this video. Make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe, turn on your notifications, do all those things to help make sure you catch my videos every day. We upload daily around here. I'm also streaming on YouTube consistently. I should be back tomorrow, and I stream multiple days a week. So if you haven't already had the chance, please check it out. And the VODs are available on the live tab of my channel. But that's going to do it for this video. Hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you next time.